We've talked about a lot of practical skills and leadership mindsets that help us lead great small groups. The goal, though, is not great small groups. The goal is lives changed by the power of God through Christian community. The goal is to see less families dissolve into divorce, for those suffering with depression to find hope and peace, for those longing for a fulfilling purpose beyond making a buck and buying the next toy to find it in God's purpose for their lives. The goal is to see people prosper and enjoy living God-honoring, generous lives, and to see people saved from the kingdom of darkness, freed from sinful patterns that cause pain, and transferred into the light of God's kingdom in all of its goodness, faithfulness, and love. All throughout the Bible, God chooses to do that glorious work in our lives through the power of Christian community. But Christian community, the church, all too often becomes self-centered and stagnant, living as consumers rather than powerful, winsome, culture-shaping followers of Jesus. As small group leaders, we want to be followers of Jesus who create true biblical Christian community. And there are two primary words that describe biblical Christian community. The first is fellowship. Fellowship is most often talked about in the context of Christians meeting together, worshiping, doing life together, and encouraging one another to follow God. Acts 2:42 says that the early church, the explosively growing, life and culture transforming model of Christian community, devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and prayer. The result? Transformed lives and communities. The culture around them saw a compelling unity of love and fellowship among the people of God who would normally have been strangers, if not enemies. So compelling was that picture of love and unity that people flocked to follow Jesus and be a part of the church. The result is seen as Acts 2:47, and it says, "And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved." But today the word fellowship falls short of the concept of biblical fellowship. We often think of fellowship as getting together with other Christians and creating our own little subset of friends. But there is another word used in the Bible that transforms that concept of fellowship into something truly powerful, something that can rock our town, our state, and transform our nation through the power and love of God. The second word also describes how the early church lived. It's the word hospitality. Hospitality is a commanded practice for all followers of Jesus. We see it in Genesis 18, in Abraham's life. Elsewhere in the Bible, we see it as something that was to be part of every church leader's life. Today, when we think of hospitality, we think of someone who loves to have people over and put on a really nice party. But that isn't even close to the meaning of hospitality in the Bible. The English word hospitality derives from a Latin word focused on welcoming strangers into our lives. And it's this Latin word that mirrors the Old Testament meaning, where it meant if a stranger was traveling through your town at night and they didn't have a place to stay, you gave them your guest room and fed them. You took them in, inviting strangers into your life, in your home. Jesus, in the parable of the sheep and the goats in Matthew 25, reinforces and expands this emphasis of hospitality and taking in a stranger to a whole new level, including caring for people who you wouldn't normally associate with, clothing and feeding those who don't have enough, visiting and caring for someone in prison, inviting people who are different than you into a relationship with you, people who might make you uncomfortable. See, Jesus says whoever does these things does it unto Jesus himself. So we see the early church inviting unbelieving people into their homes, inviting the homeless to meals with their small groups, caring for the sick at the risk of their own lives, caring for others very personally and in long-term community. So how is your small group reaching out to new people in the church, inviting them into your group? How are you opening your lives, your homes, your time, and your resources to them? How is your small group serving those who are often overlooked or looked down upon? Are you only inviting people into your small group who are easy to get along with and generally put together like you? See, living in the power of God means we do life like Jesus did. He came to love and bring healing to the oppressed, the outcast, the lonely, those who didn't live or think or act or talk like he created them to live, think, act, or talk. If you want to experience and know the grace and love of God, then give the grace and love of God like Jesus did to strangers. See, Jesus invited difficult people into his inner circle. He made room for new people in his life and in his group. And Jesus didn't just make room, he pursued them, leaving heaven to come to earth to personally invite us in. In fact, Jesus rejected those who just wanted to live their life and faith in the comfort of people who behaved and thought like them. Is it easy to invite new people into your group? No. It always brings change. It always brings challenge. It leads to groups growing and multiplying and relationships changing. But if you want to live in the center of God's love for this world, then you will need to make room for new people, for strangers, and live a life pursuing them, loving them, and seeing God save and heal them. You will walk with people through seasons that are trying and difficult, and some will not choose to follow God and let him save them, but others will. And those stories that God writes through your life and through the life of your small group will be fulfilling beyond anything you can imagine. They will be the stories that you will tell your children and grandchildren about how powerful and good God is. That's the power of God working through small groups, the practice of hospitality, reaching out, rescuing, and providing Christian communities so that the Lord can add to our number daily those who are being saved. Take a moment to consider this question, and if you're with others, talk about it. In what ways could you live out hospitality more clearly and encourage your group to do so?